I am a huge fan of BioWare and its RPGs. With interesting settings, lovable and deep characters, and occasionally complex moral dilemmas, what's not to love? Sure, some of their recent fares haven't always wowed, but it's not as though older games simply evaporate when new releases come around. So, in celebration of Jade Empire's 15th birthday this April, I'm going to go through my top 10 BioWare RPGs. Number 10, Star Wars: The Old Republic. First up is an MMORPG that happens to be somewhat free to play, which is a big plus for cheapskates like myself. But beyond that, what impresses me about The Old Republic is the detailed storylines created for each class. Not to mention the mini clothing, customization and dialogue options, which go a long way to help the whole MMO aspect and give any player's character a distinct identity. Sure, much like any of BioWare's offline titles, if a character is on a story path, they'll go through it roughly the same way despite any choices made, but it still does a great job of making these choices and a player's individuality feel important and distinct. Number 9, Baldur's Gate. Now here's a real classic. I had heard so much of this title for so long before I'd gotten to play it, thanks to the amazing Enhanced Edition from Overhauled Games, and it proved to be nearly every bit as amazing as I'd been led to believe. Despite some technical disappointments and style choices that rubbed me the wrong way, I had an amazing time. I was especially impressed by the side content. While some quests certainly had boring concepts behind them, I was overjoyed whenever I could end a situation without violence or when a strange twist came up that I had not been expecting. To be perfectly honest though, I spent a lot more time trying to manage the party health and in-game time more than I might have otherwise wanted to. Not to mention how I probably reloaded saves to retry combat more so than in any other BioWare title here. It honestly got to be a bit annoying, especially since many of these combat sequences came down to either luck or an excessive amount of potions and spells on my part. Still, I enjoyed the game tremendously and I'm glad I went for it. Number 8, Mass Effect 3. I am a huge fan of the Mass Effect series, probably more so than any of BioWare's other titles, which means, in part, that my disappointment with 3 and Andromeda are a bit pronounced, shall we say. I'll certainly defend their merits, but there are definite reasons why Andromeda's not here and 3 is as low as it is. And no, not just because it had a rather annoying, disappointing ending. 3 is a dramatic shift from 2, much like how 2 was a major shift from the original Mass Effect. And some of those changes, like the drastic reduction in squad mates or the overall bleaker and warlike tone, were just not my cup of tea. There is certainly some levity, but most of it is left to the Citadel DLC, same with the additional squad mates. But beyond that, Mass Effect 3 was still quite the beautiful goodbye to an amazing cast of characters in their universe. Some of my favourite moments from the whole series take place here, and that's got to count for something. Not to mention how actual gameplay segments are quite enjoyable in their own right. Using an Omniblade is tremendous fun and works well with the other abilities returning from the previous titles, and it all works quite well online to boot. Making the multiplayer side of the game a cooperative effort is a solid idea executed quite beautifully. Additionally, I just love the whole galactic readiness system. It really does a great job of exploring the various choices made throughout the series and offering some more closure on the smaller events. It might have been nice for more of these details to show up directly in relation to the plot, but it works well enough in its own regard. Number 7, Jade Empire. Okay, yes, I know. It's rather rude of me to put the birthday game this low on the list. Heck, I even love this game. With twists to rival Knights of the Old Republic and an interesting, if a little hard to get into, combat system, Jade Empire is a blast. The focus mechanic is especially delightful to play around with, slowing down time to better deal with the more dangerous enemies you encounter. I would love to see such a mechanic worked into a future BioWare game as well, but considering EA's repeated move towards multiplayer being a key factor in their games, I'm not going to hold my breath. Honestly though, the game is long overdue for a remake or a sequel. It's definitely showing its age, but Jade Empire is still a worthwhile experience and getting an upgraded and improved version of it would just be so darn nice. Number 6, Dragon Age Inquisition. Some more quick honesty here. Inquisition is very fun to play, especially in tactical mode. While it is certainly enjoyable to whip spells and swords around in real time, there has simply been little that has satisfied me in the way that seeing a frozen enemy explode in slow motion has. Take that, a wide cast of lovable characters, looking at you Josephine, and breathtaking views, and you've got yourself a very enjoyable time. Walking around and getting into fights is how I spent roughly a third of my game there, the rest of my time being spent with NPCs or on specific quests. What is especially impressive though is how the game manages to maintain so many various plot threads from the prior two titles. Admittedly, a lot of it is just changed dialogue, but there are several sections where wholly different characters are in a variety of different roles. There could be certainly more there, but when can you not say that about an ambitious, choice-based series like Dragon Age? Number 5. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. An oldie, but definitely a goldie. Like Jade Empire, Knights of the Old Republic can certainly run into some formulaic plot points, but it is still such a fun and wild ride. It definitely has its share of issues too, like a combat system that both requires attention and often prevents direct engagement at the same time, and also what is probably the most binary black and white morality system in any of BioWare's games. However, the game also comes with several amazing worlds to experience, with many interesting side quests to go along with the expansive central plot. The fact that it's got plenty of heart certainly doesn't hurt either. Coming in number 4, we have Mass Effect 2. Yes, I know. I'm a crummy criminal for putting this amazing spectacle 4th place. Mass Effect 2 is often hailed as one of the greatest RPGs of recent years, and for some of all time, and that reputation is far from undeserved. It built off of the original game in many amazing and perfect ways. There are so many little and big things here that I absolutely love, such as the Solarian with his stepdaughter and Ilium, Jack's whole character arc, and Mordin's singing. There's just so much crammed in here to love, but, well, there's also a fair bit that's disappointing. One of your squad mates joins the crew a bit too late to really be experienced properly. The first game squad mates get shafted, really, in terms of arcs and story involvement, except for Liara, who gets an amazing DLC questline. The romances are fairly limited in terms of queer options, and so on and so forth. Just a lot of frustrations, really. I mean, I get that Garrus is here just as a fan favourite, but please let him do more than just calibrate. Same goes for Tali. I can forgive prime main characters as cameos in the Dragon Age series because you're playing completely different characters in each title, but if you're going to add pre-existing characters as a squad mate, please give them at least as many conversations as the other squad mates you can encounter. We're now in the top 3, and starting us off is Dragon Age Origins. Ah yes, the one that started the Dragon Age series, and a great game of its own merits. While it can be a tad clunky and aged at times, in ways similar to Jade Empire and Knights of the Old Republic, Origins remains a solid experience to this day, with both fun combat and great characters. The plot and side quests certainly have their moments, but where the game shines is in its various character arcs of your party members. Some are more memorable than others, but when Origins really goes out with a character, like Alistair in all of his dorky nature and overall theme of birthright and responsibilities, it really hits a home run. There are few other games that so quickly craft characters that jump into my heart and refuse to leave. Of course, there is a ton more to love about the game, like how it does a great job of setting up its world, or in how it makes each of the game's origins for the protagonist actually feel like they matter and affect the plot, and so on. There's a lot here, and it should not be missed. In our number 2 spot we have Dragon Age 2. This is blasphemy. I am fully aware of that, but I cannot help it. I love the Dragon Age games, and 2 is the one that really sucked me in. It does an amazing job of crafting its own corner of the world that Origins set up. It's absolutely covered in fun characters to interact with, and the more straightforward plot and protagonist really helped me feel engaged to the story. Hawke as a character does a great job of creating a specific identity that remains prevalent and consistent throughout the game. Yes, it's one of 3, but the sort of identity inertia that 2 presents feels like an infinitely better reward for getting into a particular personality, rather than being able to raise a charm or intimidate stat like in the Mass Effect series, or just bumping up your persuasion in the first Dragon Age game. DLC notwithstanding, there was not a single companion that I did not like, and the various other characters, even the cameos from Origins, were often much the same. This Kirkwall adventure felt different from the general save the world plot in many of BioWare's other fares. Oftentimes, there's more to things than just that, of course, but still Dragon Age 2 is a breath of fresh air, despite its many repeated maps. And coming on in our number 1 spot, it's Mass Effect. Of course, it's Mass Effect. Similar to Dragon Age Origins, this title launched one of BioWare's biggest series, and I am just in love with it. I've certainly played the others multiple times, but this is the only one that I've completed to 100% twice. I'm not even entirely sure why I love Mass Effect the most. It's got more repetitive maps than Dragon Age 2, it has only one queer romance option, and it certainly looks its age. But then, there's the squad mates and their interesting backstories for you to listen to. there's cosmic horror, and some of the best sympathetic yet still undeniably evil villains I've had the pleasure of witnessing. And then there's the Mako. I have heard so much about how people don't like the Mako or the planet you drive it on, but like Jade Empire's focus ability or Inquisition's tactical mode, I simply can't say that I didn't enjoy every second of it. Yes, the Mako is clunky, and yes, some of those mountains are too high, but heck, trying to find a good solid piece of flat ground on an ascent, hopping that car around, or shooting its big darn cannon at giant thresher maws was one of the highlights of the game. There's a lot that I wish the sequels had brought back or addressed from here, but, well, we don't always get what we want. Mass Effect sets up enough to carry an entire series with its incredible world building, a terrifying enemy, and a whole spaceship load of fun. So, whether in celebration of Jade Empire's 15th anniversary or just out of appreciation for some amazing games, give these 10 a try. I guarantee you won't be disappointed.